Hey, I'm Javier Muñoz, and I'm so excited to be supporting Red in their fight against AIDS, and I've teamed up with Red and Omaze to offer you and the guest your shot to come see Hamilton and then meet me inside.
Meet 'em inside, meet 'em inside.
Yeah, that sometimes happens. Anyway, you'll have your chance to meet me at the Richard Rodgers Theater here in New York City for as little as a $10 donation. So here's what you do. Click here, omaze.com/Hamilton. We're taking care of your flight, a 4-star New York hotel, no excuses. So come join me and raise a glass in our fight to end AIDS. As someone living with HIV, this means more to me than you can imagine.
Meet 'em inside, meet 'em inside, meet 'em inside, meet 'em inside.
Javier Muñoz and Deb Dugan, CEO of Red. Thank you for spending today with us, especially since it's World AIDS Day.
Thank you. This is an honor. Hi, guys.
Hey, so good to see everybody.
So Javi, we know you best as Hamilton, from Hamilton. Yes. And Deb, we know you best from all the incredible work that you've done to raise awareness for HIV and AIDS prevention and treatment through the Red organization. Can you start by talking a little bit about the organization? I think for a lot of people, they're aware of these beautiful t-shirts and the merchandise. They know Bono is involved, but can you give us a couple of sentences of further description?
Yeah, absolutely. So today's December 1st, which is World AIDS Day, and every day we try to apply heat on the issue of AIDS so that people know it's still a world health crisis and give people opportunities to get involved in some way. So you'll see today like multiple touch points of things hitting you red, hopefully, that remind you how important this cause is. It started actually 10 years ago, so it's our 10th year, by solving a problem. The Global Fund, which is an institution that fights malaria, tuberculosis, and AIDS, was supposed to have countries and companies all gather together in the fight, and it was a UN mandate, United Nations. What happened is the first 4 or 5 years, countries came to the tune of $5 billion, and companies came with $5 million. So it looked like companies weren't going to get involved, which would put the whole project, quite frankly, in jeopardy. So Bobby Shriver and Bono, too many B's for me, had the great idea of starting something called Red, which would take partnerships with big companies of the world, Apple, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, Belvedere, and have them work to generate heat, to let people know where we are in the fight, and then also raise funds to the Global Fund. So 100% of the money goes from the partner to the Global Fund, and then Global Fund doesn't take any out. 100% goes to programs on the ground where it's worse on the planet.
That's incredible. And I have seen, over the course of the 10 years, I have seen the Red brands grow and change and expand. And I've been a wearer of these t-shirts since the beginning, and it's just an honor to have you here and to learn a little bit more about it from the inside. Javi, how did you get involved?
Well, oddly enough, I want to sort of give the whole scope here on that to answer that. When Red came into existence, there wasn't a lot for me at testing HIV positive in 2002 to grab onto and to gravitate towards for inspiration. And I mean inspiration in terms of like truly the inspiration to keep living, to keep finding my worth. And Red came around, and it was one of a handful of voices that were speaking about something that most everyone was not. And that stigma, that fear surrounding the diagnosis, my diagnosis, and creating that silence, it needed to be, what's the word? The bubble needed to be, burst. And that was for me a great inspiration way back when. So I've always had Red in my life as far as just being an individual living with HIV. But when Hamilton hit, and this is so random, I was at Daveed Diggs's final performance. We had a party to celebrate his final performance, and I met Chrissy, who works with Red, and Chrissy and I hit it off and started a conversation, and the next thing I know, I'm meeting everybody in their office.
The next thing we know is he walks into the Red office in Chelsea. Red is only 20 people, so we're all scurrying
Wow.
about. That's it. So he comes in and says, "Is there anything I can do to help?" And we all just kind of fell on the floor, so you won't have to say that twice. So, there's a great experience if you go on omaze.com to go backstage. So it's not just seeing the show, which is enough because you can't get tickets, but it's more about the experience of spending time with that Javier. It's just a great, great person. Always so cheery. We were saying that, like, a complete blast to be with. So it costs $10 to have the sweepstakes. It's not an auction, so that only wealthy people win. When Red goes out, we try to do the most interesting experiences. There's 10 of them. So if you prefer, I can't imagine, but going maybe on a jet ski with DJ Khaled, or having U2 perform a concert just for you.
Maybe you want to go to tea with Julia Roberts
There
and
we
Bono.
go.
Or
Yeah, no,
maybe
yeah.
you want to get flown to Korea to like meet with this K-pop star. Or these are. I have been involved in a lot of charity auctions, both like trying to gather events and experiences to auction off and to raffle off and stuff. I've never seen anything like this.
No, we always try to do things a little tongue-in-cheek.
Oh, maybe you want to go on a date with Channing Tatum. Okay.
No. You get to see the opening of Magic Mike. It's going to be quite interesting, to say the least, in Vegas. But then we also have 200 products going Red today. So I'm like a walking display of the Lokai bracelets, the Apple Watch. There's so many of them, so please go to red.org.
And they're at all different price points too, right?
Yeah.
Like the bracelet that we're both wearing is $19.99, and there's a Vespa. It's like
$10,000.
Yeah, $10,000. But also, I also learned that like Apple's App Store is going Red today, so you can actually make a difference with just 99 cents by choosing one of these apps that is benefiting Red today.
Again, the way Red works is to tap on creative geniuses. The idea is to have the most creative in the world working for the poorest of poor. So it is the money going to the Global Fund, but the app developers of these games, and it's 20 top games, Clash of Clans, FIFA, Angry Birds. The developers worked for many of them over 8 months. Inside the game, there's all of a sudden a hero with a red helmet. And when that hero does something, money will go to the Global Fund. Or if you're doing your Sims pretend house and you buy red curtains, money will go to the Global Fund. So it's all incorporated into the game in a clever way. So all of a sudden you're doing your daily passions and you see red and you get reminded that the stakes are still really high in the fight against AIDS.
Wow. Javi, if you could experience any one of the other 9 Omaze experiences, which one would it be, do you
Are
think?
you kidding? A U2 concert from me? Yes,
You
please.
plus one, so can I come?
Yes,
And then
indeed,
maybe
indeed.
Bono will buy your experience and come backstage at Hamilton.
That'd be awesome. No, really.
The one thing that I was really the most sort of taken by in reading about this project is that it only costs 30 cents to get a pill that will prevent an HIV-positive mother from transmitting the disease to her child. And that when treated, 99% of babies born to HIV-positive mothers are actually born HIV negative.
Yes.
Right.
I can't think of a better way to spend $10 than
it's
to
great.
know that it's going to treat 33.3 mothers.
Well, you said it very well. It's the treatment is the prevention.
Right.
So what has happened in a disease that has taken 35 million lives? Like, just think about that. It's kind of come in our lifetime. And 37 million are living with the disease. in an infectious disease, there are certain tipping points. If, like we've done pretty successfully in the US and Europe, you can get mothers to not pass on HIV to their newborn babies, you then start to have an AIDS-free generation, a generation that does not have HIV. And so in a very short period of time, we've taken it from 1,200 mothers a day passing on HIV to their babies to right now we're at 400 mothers a day. It's still horrible, preventable, and shouldn't be, but amazing progress has been made. And to your point, by 2020, it's one of the United Nations goals, is to have that be near zero. And it's achievable, something we could all embrace and celebrate in 2020 as a case study that the world did this. And then, quite frankly, if we did that, we could really do the right things to get it off the planet by 2030.
And I really want to add on to that as just my own personal experience in the sense of how vital it is to remember that while we have so many companies or insurance companies or access to medications here that enable someone like me to be able to have affordable treatment, it's not affordable elsewhere. And even still, should I lose my health insurance, should I need to pay out of pocket, we're talking thousands of dollars for a month's supply, where I would literally have to then choose, am I gonna pay my rent or am I going to survive? And find the medication that I need. And those are the choices we're still dealing with. It's not that it's over, we're close, but there's still so much more to do.
And we're talking a first world country in the United States. AIDS and HIV infection around the world, especially in Africa, I know is still very much a problem, and they're facing different struggles than you are as a working American citizen with health insurance.
With all of those benefits, yeah.
No, and I'll just interject that the #1 cause of death for women of reproductive age on the planet is AIDS. The #1 cause of death for teens, #2 cause of death for teens worldwide is AIDS. Like, this is still a global health crisis, but we're at a tipping point. We're at a very pivotal place where if we keep doing the same, it's not going to be enough. But if we step up, not a huge amount actually, considering the scope of it, but if we step up and do the right things, we will be able to reach these goals.
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions that the public in general still has about HIV and AIDS? Deb, I'm curious from you on sort of an institutional, global level, and Javi, as an individual living with HIV, I'm curious as to what misconceptions you deal with anecdotally, sort of with people that you meet. Sure. Deb, do you want to go first?
I would say probably on a global level, it's keeping it relevant, letting people know that's why red is all about heat. That's why we wore the color red. We have to keep it top of mind. And if you can get youth believing that this is something important and all of these major companies saying, I'm going to step up, that then can affect policy. And that is what has to happen to change the game.
And individually, I would say there's quite a few. The first being that and I know this is crazy to say in this year, but they're not the same. HIV is not AIDS, AIDS is not HIV. They're actually two different things, and that's a very simple piece of information to know.
Do you want to just give people sort of the difference?
HIV is the virus that, if untreated, will eventually lead to AIDS, and so you will die of AIDS-related, you could die of AIDS-related diseases. But HIV is not AIDS. They're they're two separate things. And it's not a death sentence to be HIV positive. That's another misconception. To assume right away, oh, well, how long do you have to live? 14 years, I'm undetectable, I'm perfectly healthy and fine, right? So it's just information that is readily available that I find that people don't or choose to not access or maybe haven't yet found an inspiration to access. But those are very simple things that sort of add to the stigma for me personally, that I find myself in situations and conversations where I'm like, okay, let's start at square one. You know, and I have the patience to do that, but it's information that's available to inform yourselves, and quite honestly, I think that's all of our responsibility to know.
And there's information at red.org for people to do that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it is amazing that it's 2016 and there still is a stigma attached, right? I mean,
Very much.
It just seems that we have to keep going forward, because if you can do the right things on prevention and then get everybody to be tested, it's so important that people get tested and that there not be any stigma to that. You know, you want to know, and you know, gosh forbid you have HIV, you don't want to be passing it on in some period where you
Or leave it untreated.
And then the next part is just taking the medication. And so in sub-Saharan Africa, it's about getting people access to that medication. As you've said, I've been there many, many times, and you see people, young adolescent girls that are literally choosing between food and taking the pills.
I'm shocked by how many people still think HIV and AIDS are like gay things.
Yeah, that's also that's part of the stigma too, and I guess not, again, the things that aren't talked about, right? That we still sort of sweep under the rug, which is why I am so vocal about it, because it's not,
Right.
it's and there was something you said that I wanted to touch upon. It'll come back to me. I'm
Well,
so
while
sorry.
you're thinking of that, the 70, it's not 72 million gay people that have HIV.
Correct.
And they're, we focus, looking at each country and where they are in the fight. And there's over 1 million in the United States. There's still hot spots of drug users in the world in different ports and countries, and there is a very sad case in South Africa in particular, where an adolescent girl is 5 times more likely to get HIV because she does want an education and she wants to go to school, so she'll get a sugar daddy that will help her pay for education. Those kinds of wrongs that are not about charity, they're just about equal rights and justice, is why Red's mission is so important.
It sounds like protection has a lot more, there's a lot more to it than just using condoms, that there are a lot of other ways that people can protect themselves and keep themselves from contracting the virus, and then treating themselves when they do get it.
Yeah, and I think, and I come from the perspective of an individual living with it, and I'm always of the mind to say that at the heart of all of it is fear, is the stigma that's still attached to it, and it just needs to be a conversation. It's actually way easier to talk about it than not talk about it, and that's sort of what I was trying to get at from what you were saying.
Yeah, and I have to say, as we have complete transparency and we want to bring down companies that are not doing the right thing, we want to just kiss those that are stepping out and doing the right thing. So, if you go to the Apple homepage today, you'll see there are 23 products. You'll see their games going red. If you can, use Apple Pay every time you do. Apple will give $1, but Bank of America will also give $1 every time you use your card on Apple Pay. And they've given over $20 million in the fight against AIDS. So it's staggering numbers and so much effort from these companies to say, here are some tools for you to get involved and make a real difference in impact. We've got 18.2 million people now on life-saving medication that, but for the work of the Global Fund and all of these countries and not-for-profits, they would not be alive today.
Well, I said this to you, Javi, last time you were here, but I think it's still remarkable to me that with 18 million plus people living with HIV, that for, I'm going to venture a guess and say most people out there, you're the only one that we know. And not that you're the only person living with HIV that we know, but the only one who's talking about it. Right. And your visibility as the lead in the biggest show in the world, and because of this everyone's aspiration to know you and to love you and to be part of your life, they have no choice but to accept that about you. And that means that as a result of that, they have now accepted everyone in their life or who might come through their life who is also living with the virus. And hopefully that will give courage to the other 18 million people who are fighting that same fight.
And living in silence. And I also, I'm outspoken also to hope, in the hopes of encouraging, if I can do my 7 shows a week, if I can be as healthy as I am, if I can look healthy and be healthy and have so many years of living with HIV, and still be able to do what I do, that by example, that's enough to sort of say to folks, is what you know really what you know? Is your understanding really what you, a truth? Or am I able to break something so that you might view someone you know in your life or someone you come across or with HIV differently? You know, and that's my hope, is that by being so outspoken and being vocal about it, it's presenting another example so that anyone living with HIV is not living in fear, but rather, you know, finding their self-worth.
Well, you are the most joyful person and the most grateful person that I've ever met. And the fact that you're doing, I don't see it that you're doing that in spite of your struggles. I feel like you have developed the muscles you needed to get to that point of joy and gratitude by fighting these strong fights. Yes. And if there's ever been an example of someone who has used setbacks or obstacles as a means to conquer, I think that you're that man, so thank you. And on an institutional level, Deb, Red has done the same thing. You've taken this worldwide obstacle and made it a way to let these retail companies really shine. We're gonna go to the audience for some questions, but first I have a question, which is, what's with the parentheses? I've wondered this since Red started 10 years ago. Every time you see it, it's not just red, it's red.
It's an embrace, it's a hug. If you go to Facebook, please change your page to have the paren around your face as you're somebody that wants to be involved.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Hi, guys. Thanks for being here. Javier, I was actually at the special charity performance last month of Hamilton. I was in the front row, and it was literally the greatest night of my life, and you literally had me in the fetal position on the floor. But I have 2 questions, actually. So the first question is, what is the meaning behind red? Like, why the color red? And also for Javi, what is something that we can do other than donating to help someone who has HIV or AIDS?
Oh, great. So the color red just came from urgency, right? From the beginning, it was like, how do you garnish people's attention? So, everything we do, we try to, do a little bit provocatively. We're not sappy, in telling the story. We're incredibly positive because you can see what can be done. And so, really around the world, because we are global, people get those parens mean something good. They think it means something to do with AIDS. They think it might have something to do with that rock star Bono. But when they see the color red, where it's not normally, even today, if you look in the New York Times, there's a full-page ad that says, black, white, red all over, huh? Like the joke, but it gets people's attention and has them think about urgency and heat.
And to answer your second question, there's so much you can do, and it doesn't have to be from the biggest of gestures to the smallest of gestures. Like, of course, there are economic gestures, right? You can donate to Red. You can buy a Red product. You can donate to so many other organizations as well. But then there's other things like extra clothes in your house. There are organizations like Housing Works. You can donate those materials to. Food kitchens, soup kitchens. You can volunteer at. You can donate extra food to as well. And then there's the most human thing, and it's just reaching out. If someone in your life is living with HIV, let them know they're loved. Let them know you love them. Let them know they're of worth to you. And it can be the simplest of things to the greatest of things, but it's I would not be here without my friends. I would not be here without my family and their love. And that's a simple thing that costs nothing that we can actually give.
I think I'd like to add to that because so many of us may have people in our lives that we don't know are living with the virus, something as simple as, and I'm speaking from a point of view without any expertise, so.
Please.
But I think to put on Twitter or Facebook, if you're living with HIV or AIDS, you're safe with me.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And
I
powerful.
invite you to let me in so that I can be there for you in whatever way I can.
I mean, that's huge, yes. I mean,
And then I have the opportunity to say, human to human, you matter.
that's beautiful, yes.
Let's
That's an
all do it.
absolutely
I'm
beautiful
changing my
gesture.
Facebook status
Yes.
as soon as I get off this stage.
And not to be self-serving, but if you do something red, your friends will see that you care.
That's
Right?
true
Yeah,
as well.
I love it. Plus, you might end up getting to meet Channing Tatum or Javi. And bring your friend who has HIV. Show them you care by
Absolutely.
taking them as your +1 to go hang out with
Yes.
Richard Branson.
So
Do we
great.
have another question?
Hey, so are there any other organizations that within the countries that have a prevalent HIV that are doing like anything similar or that work with you?
It's such a good question because when you look at the whole person and their experience, like I gave the example of the girl, it's many organizations that are doing the right thing on education, the Malala Fund, to get those girls in school. There's, connectivity, trying to get electricity in places that don't have electricity so that somebody can do their homework at night and stay in school. Because if you're likely to stay in school, you're much less likely to get HIV. And so it takes a lot of people and a lot of different organizations. The UN actually has stated goals for the next 15 years on each of the areas that are going to make a difference. And so they're listed, and then it also lists the organizations that get there. So it could be about water, it could be about education, it could be about agriculture. In places of extreme poverty, it's not just one thing, but when we look at it, we focus on getting people the medication, lots of education on prevention. There's Grassroots Soccer, for example, is an organization that through soccer for kids in the game, they teach them facts about HIV, they teach them about prevention, and they make a difference. Again, as we're talking about, in the United States, who do you know, and let's get rid of the stigma. You can imagine for young teens there what goes on. And so for them to have a community to share and to be able to be empowered and talk about this. Most women, it's so interesting, and men, when they get on medication, they start to help their community. They start to become activists. And I know it sounds simplistic, but when you buy the red one versus the white one, you're being an activist on behalf of those people.
Well said.
Question from an online viewer. So Grant would like to know, what has been one of your favorite prizes or experiences this year or in the past for Red?
Well, this year it's definitely going backstage with Javier Muñoz at Hamilton. So I'll just get that one out of the way right now.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think it was timely that last year, Bono did fall off his bike in Central Park, and there was so much news about that. So he right away did an experience that if you were willing to risk your life and win and ride around Central Park with him with a helmet, that he would buy you ice cream. And so the couple that won that actually spent the whole day with him and had a blast. So that might have been a fun one.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you for being here with us. Everybody, please go to red.org today. Make a commitment to making a purchase, whether it's a 99-cent app or whether it's a $10,000 Vespa or anywhere in between. Let's all do our part today to support Red.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.